Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, 4 nerds by nerds, hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchist Ted.
And today we have the case of the sorcerer with unlimited power!
If you have a GM911 or viewer suggestion, you can send those over to nerdarchy.com. Just put GM911 right in the subject so we know what it is, or you can head over to our forum in the GM911 section on nerdarchy.com.
So, as you may have just surmised, this is a GM 911, but it is actually a player 911 in the disguise of a GM 911. But because our friend is from sunny England, it is actually a GM player 999. And what was his name again?
Ben Jacques, something along those lines.
Okay, sorry.
I'm horrible with names. I'm really.
We're going to put in the description this player / GM 911.
Yeah, we'll put his original text down below, but essentially he's a 7th level sorcerer. He's managed to get access to a wish spell, and his DM has allowed the wish of him having the casting ability of a 20th level sorcerer.
Yeah, so the caveat is he has the Book of Ultimate Evil, and when he has to cast these spells from that book, the power is tied to that book, and when he does, he takes a d20 plus 4 points of damage.
So, as a 7th level sorcerer, he is not stacked with hit points, so I imagine he's going to use this once, maybe twice, before he says, alright, I'm going to wait a while.
He's going to need to get healed. Well, yeah, there's a couple things. One, we're going to actually address his actual question is, how should he handle his spell selection?
Right.
But before we get to that, we were just going to kind of like discuss this
the lead up?
Well, not just the lead up, but allowing this in a game of D&D. And one, I think it's a gross abuse of the wish spell. I mean, obviously the DM allowed it. If they're having fun with their game, that's fine.
He did say that he was pushing the DM to see what he would allow.
What do you get away with?
And he got away with something.
Murder.
And the DM, had the little caveat of, okay, you can do it, but there's a cost. I don't know where the D20 plus 4 came from. A D20 is a big swing when it comes to hit points.
And the interesting thing you pointed out was, if he rolls maximum and he rolls minimum, we're looking at a character that has 30 hit points before con bonus. We don't know what kind of sorcerer he is, so he could have picked up another 7 from Bloodline.
Right.
Possibly, but max and minimum puts you at 29, so you're definitely getting into the risky area. You definitely wouldn't want to do it a third time.
And you're doing it in combat, so there's a chance that you're taking damage besides.
Yes.
So you don't want to use this, and the player feels that the DM came up with a compromise that literally says, okay, well, I can't do this very often.
Yeah. So
applaud on that factor. But the particulars of it, as Dave says, it's a gross abuse. I come from the days of playing where the wish spell was, okay, how can I lawyer this down to have the least detrimental effect on my character?
Yeah.
Wish was one of those things that it was incredibly tempting, but I avoided it at all costs. Because
Wish in previous editions, like, you could raise one stat to like 16 or 14,
something like that.
One of those in one go, but then after that it was like
per point.
It was a point, and at a certain point then it was like a tenth of a point. Like, it wasn't even the full shebang. You could gain 1 level. Like, it was really like there was definitely limitations on what you could do. And I also I feel like the DM was very much encouraged to try and turn that wish around and twist it if possible.
It was supposed to be like, all right, this is a malevolent genie that you're using to get this, and he always wanted to twist it. And watch the Disney Aladdin movie, the sequel, where the guy starts rambling off all these things, and Jafar just is like, well, here's this, and he perverts each wish to show what exactly that you could do with it. And that's exactly how I interpreted what the manual said to do. So it was like, I don't know about this. Not certain this is really worth it.
So back in our days, Johnny, wishes were scarier.
Right. 3rd edition changed it to, here's your options. And they left it at that. So it's like, all right, well, if it's beyond the scope of a 9th level spell, no, you can't do it. So it's like, oh, well, you could make a lower level spell permanent. That's pretty cool, but there were costs.
Right, exactly. So now the gist of the question is, like, he's got a bit of a killer DM is the vibe that I was getting from this email.
It says that the DM actually has like a kill count. So he's, wondering if he goes, in the question of what spell selection should he go with. If he goes with a lot of damage dealing options, then he feels that the DM is going to...
he was afraid that the players will be upset that he's kind of like hogging the spotlight kind of
deal.
Well,
that's one side of it, but he feels that the DM is going to turn up the dial of power. And be happy because it's like, all right, well, I'm going to start killing players because I've got to have monsters that are able to survive what you can do.
Yeah, so, and then his other thing was, well, should I go with more utility spells so that... so that it's not as much of a problem during play, and it's more interesting and helpful things, as opposed to all combat driven.
I'm always for utility. I like having the options. Sorcerers do have the very limited spell selection, so if you have the ability to play off of using the book for those niche spells that are going to really be useful exactly when you need it, and then use your sorcerer spells that you get by gaining levels be your more damage dealing things and the things you're going to use on a regular basis, you've got the ability to kind of keep that balancing factor, keep the DM's glaring eye away from your maniacal power that he's allowed to happen, and controlling the battlefield constantly. I think that's a better way to go.
See, I kind of feel the same way, except for I would stack in there maybe a couple spells that, like, for the the ship button.
Well, I mean, when you've got an entire breath's worth or entire allotment of spells, yes, you can throw something in there, but I would utterly save that as an ace in the hole that you pull out only under dire
you put the glass
circumstances.
over the big red button, don't break in case of emergency sign, the whole 9 yards. But there was also one thing that you mentioned, and I wanted to touch on is, like, is this DM letting him sack stuff for sorcery points? Because that's huge. I mean, the higher level spells that you could sack, I mean, you're going to take damage for it.
Right.
But, then you get to use a lot more meta magic. And, can you meta magic on those spells from that book?
So that's another thing that winds up taking this thing even further, because I've seen the manipulations that Ryan's done in your game with just a sorcerer, and if you're in a limited combat situations, because I know you don't have a lot of combats per session or a lot of combats between rests, he's really got the ability to chainsaw through some of his stuff to really maximize, pun intended, his spell usage. And it really shows that the sorcerer can shine in those combat situations when you have that style. So if the DM is allowing him to, instead of drawing spells, but draw power from the book, i.e. sack those spell slots for sorcery points.
Because then at that point he could just be like, all right, well, I'll just take Finger of Death and Disintegrate just in case. And then later on, Twin Spell, for devastating combinations, or even Quicken Spell is also another one that's quite useful,
right,
to really ratchet your damage in that particular round.
So there's a lot of things that can be done. So we don't have all the particulars here. I really hope that he can't grab the actual spell slots for sorcery points.
Frankly, I don't care. It's not my game. If they're having fun, it doesn't matter. Because I know, like, a ton of people are like, I would never allow that. That's stupid, or whatever. Like,
well, I mean,
we always get those comments. That's why I say it. And frankly, my response to that is, well, you're not playing in that game. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, that's how they play their game. If that's their fun, that's their fun. It's not true. Right or wrong.
That's true. So I kind of question, like, well, did the other players get wishes and have something happen?
Well, it was
too?
a deck of many things, so who knows what they got?
Oh, that's true.
They could have got dead. That's where some of those player deaths came from.
It's highly possible.
So I don't know. How would you handle this situation in your game? Do you have any helpful suggestions for our friend across the pond?
Ben,
let us know in the comments below. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can tweet at us at Nerdarchy.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.